races into the NASCAR Cup Series season, we thought almost certainly we were going to have a fourth driver to win, but instead, Willie B takes home his second straight victory at Phoenix. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. My name is Dan. This is my son, Nick. I'm at home. He's away at college. This is how we enjoy the NASCAR Cup season together. We've been doing this for a couple of years now. Nick, how are you doing this week?
I've been good. This race, I was sure that someone different was going to win. Maybe it was going to be Chastain. I don't know. I thought anyone but William Byron pulls it off again. I was surprised, but good for him, I guess.
Well, there's a lot to talk about that happened in the race, and then there's a lot to talk about that's happened since the race. So where do we start?
Well, Phoenix, at least in my eyes, it was basically what I expected. If you fell behind and if you got back a lap or two and you didn't get the free pass, you were basically just doomed and stuck there in the 20s. That happened to a couple of guys that I liked.
So once again, we had two Hendrick drivers basically dominate the whole race. It was the Byron and Larson show. For a little while there, it looked like it was the Harvick show. And then fellow Ford driver Harrison Burton, I don't know what he was doing, but he brings out that caution and basically kills Harvick's chances. He was going to drive to the win.
Yeah, no, I was really wanting a Harvick win just to have a different winner, and especially with it being his last season, I want him to do well.
Well, I guess we have to talk about it, but our picks for this week, for this past week at Phoenix, they were pretty bad. I picked Joey Logano to win. He was never good. He did somehow manage his way to an 11th place finish, but he had a bad car. Nick, you picked Chastain to win, and he was doing well. He was running top five for a good portion of the race. And I guess we got to have a whole separate conversation about what happened at the end with him. Our consensus top three driver was Denny Hamlin, and he was running pretty well, but he's the other half of that conversation that we need to have later. For sleeper picks, Nick, you had Daniel Suarez. He finished 22nd. I had Brad Keselowski. He finished 18th. Both of those guys had a few moments that they were pretty good in the race, but didn't finish well.
Nothing you could do. I think all of our guys were in the top 10 at some point, but just the way it shaped out, nothing good from any of them at the end.
So the Hendrick cars, 4 Hendrick cars, and Justin Haley before the race. So I guess this was when their cars were initially having their first inspection in the garage. NASCAR saw that there was some modifications or something different about the louvers that go on the hood. Apparently, they thought they had been modified, so those parts were confiscated. The drivers had to find replacement parts. That's all we knew at the time. Byron and Larson go on to dominate the race with legal cars, and then Bowman and Berry both finished top 10. Justin Haley didn't do much in this race.
Yeah.
So then huge penalties coming down. 100 points for the Hendrick drivers and for Haley. I think this puts Haley at like negative points on the season.
I think so. And I got the numbers for guys like Alex Bowman, who doesn't have a win. He was first in point standings. That's dropped him all the way to 23rd. Byron was fourth and he's gone to 29th. But since he has a win, or 2 wins now, he's still going to be in the playoffs, but just his points way off. Kyle Larson went from 5th to 32nd. And then Haley is 49th in points at negative 40. I mean, Byron's still safe, but all around, it's not great for the points for all of them.
Well, we are early in the season. There are going to be appeals, of course, so it's possible. Well, let's talk about that. So the response from Hendrick, and especially from colleague Justin Haley's team, was that, hey, we didn't modify these parts. They came to us and they did not meet the proper specifications. So whoever supplies these parts to all the teams, they're saying that these parts came to us and they were already out of whack.
Yeah, it's just weird because especially from the colleague team also, they've talked about NASCAR's kind of been inconsistent with confiscating them and then not confiscating the parts. In one sense, you could view it as, oh, they're receiving different parts, but NASCAR didn't really say anything about it, so they're just going to use those parts. It's just
Mhm.
weird all around. Like who's telling the truth, and like were they trying to cheat? I don't know how much the louvers can change your race. Still, they're an illegal part, but like, were they actively trying to get some sort of advantage?
Well, I feel like the colleague argument was pretty compelling to me because they said, look, there's two of these that go on the hood of the car. NASCAR only confiscated one of them. The other one was fine. So why would
Yeah.
we make modifications to one and not the other?
I don't, it's just bizarre. And then because and it only affects the colleague Haley and the Hendrick cars. Like everyone else is receiving perfectly fine louvers. It's just a weird little scenario that happened, and the penalties have been very stiff. Like they're trying to make an example out of these teams for something that these teams might not have actually done. They never actually raced with the parts. The Hendrick drivers still performed amazingly well without the parts. So it's not like it had an effect on the actual outcome of the race. It just, they were found with these different parts and it has affected their standings.
I suppose if they had discovered this after the race, then this could have been a situation where they would take Byron's win away from him.
Yeah, I feel like that would be true. It would be a totally different scenario.
So the other thing, we were watching the end of the race at Phoenix. Of course, they were focused on what was happening at the front, on Harvick trying to make up the ground for taking 4 tires while the other cars only took 2, and kind of lost in all that. At least it was lost on me, because it wasn't until the race had been over for a while that I thought, where in the world is Hamlin and Chastain in these standings? And I looked down there, 20 something. What happened here?
Yeah,
But
I didn't see that. Like I've seen other guys falling off throughout the race, but especially Hamlin and Chastain, I thought they were up there. I thought they were top 10 all the way, and
then they do show that Denny Hamlin gets into Chastain, and it causes both of them to go back. They finish in the 20s. At the time, they were just chalking that up to racing, and these two guys, they just can't stay away from each other, always end up in each other's hair. Then Denny Hamlin goes on his podcast and basically admits, yeah, I wrecked him. I was going out and I was going to take him with me. Okay, I know that Hamlin has kind of owed Chastain, and we've never really seen that payback that Hamlin has probably rightly owed to Chastain. My first thought was, this is kind of a lame payback.
no, I agree with that. When I went and watched the replay, it wasn't the most flashy looking thing.
Hamlin has said that it's hard to spin Chastain out when he knows that, I guess, it's coming. So maybe he was thinking, well, he's got to catch him by surprise. Okay, fine. So Hamlin is penalized 25 points. Has to pay a fine as well.
I mean, that's not terrible, and he even outright admitted it. So I think he was fine with just, look, I did this here. There we go. I'll take the penalty. That's that. And then from hearing their conversations after, hopefully this is kind of the end to their little. No, I mean, I like their feud, but the end to them like taking each other out kind of thing, and just getting back to racing each other hard.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're saying that there's a truce. Okay. I can believe that. There's a truce from intentionally doing anything. But here's what I expect is going to happen. I expect that Chastain is going to be racing hard, and just somehow he's going to end up messing up Denny Hamlin again, and then we're going to be right back where we started. That's my opinion.
No, I agree. Something's gonna happen. I, for one, am all for it. I like the little Chastain Hamlin face-offs that happen.
So let's update our power rankings. Have you got a lot of movement after this race at Phoenix?
I do have a considerable bit, especially in the top 10. It's hard for me to weight this Phoenix race heavily just because of how I see it, but still there was stuff that I had to change. So going off of last week, I said I can't in good conscience keep Chastain at the top unless he does something great. And while he did get wrecked by Hamlin, I didn't see his performance good enough to keep him at the very top tier. So Chastain has actually dropped from first all the way to fifth for me.
Oh.
And I've got two guys, Byron and Larson. I can't compete with facts. They completely dominated. Byron especially, he's got 2 wins back to back. He's my new top driver this season. I mean, it's just been dominant from him. And then Larson, I've got him right in at second because just both of them, especially while Larson hasn't won, they've both just been top tier racing. We'll see as these tracks progress. We'll see with Atlanta, especially if they keep the momentum going, it could be huge. So with that, Kyle Busch has dropped one, Logano's dropped one to make room for the two Hendrick guys up top.
So I also considered, should I put William Byron all the way up to number one? I didn't quite bring him all the way there. I brought him to number 3 on mine, but we both now have Kyle Larson as our second ranked driver. I have kept Christopher Bell as number 1. You could argue that I should have moved Christopher Bell back already, but he comes up with a 6th place finish here. So I've still got him as my number 1. Chastain fell 2 spots back to number 4, and I've got Kyle Busch back at number 5.
Currently, I've got a new 6th place. Ryan Blaney was 9th in my last rankings. I've moved him up to 6th. He got 2nd at this race, and he's been a good, solid driver. He's definitely going to get a win this season just because his performances have been great. I feel like he's definitely a top 10, nearing the top 5 drivers if he keeps up his strides. Maybe he could win Atlanta. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I like Blaney at 6th. Moving on down, I've got a new 7th place as well. I'm going to call him Mr. Consistency, Kevin Harvick. He went from 10th, now he's 7th. He's been great. It's just top 10s all around. He finished 5th. Could have won this race. I can't have him any higher than that. Another Hendrick driver, Alex Bowman, went from 14th all the way up to 8th. I finally gave in. Hendrick's on top. I don't support Bowman's skill, but I got to give it to Hendrick. He'll get a top 10 as well. So we've got 3 Hendrick drivers in the top 10. And if Elliott returns and does well, I could have 4 easily just like that. Hamlin would be 9th. Reddick would be 10th. They've just got pushed down for the new guys, but that's through my top 10.
Joey Logano has fallen back to 6th in my rankings. I have Ryan Blaney up to 7th. Nick, you're right. Very strong race this time. I don't think his team made that big mistake that you always seem to see. I think that Blaney could win at Atlanta. I think it's maybe one of the most likely conclusions, but I still need to see from them the ability to finish. So they did it once. I want to see them do it again. And then I've got Alex Bowman at 8th, the only driver in the Cup Series with nothing but top 10s on the season is Alex Bowman. How long can he keep that streak going?
We'll see. I mean, Atlanta,
yeah,
he could keep it going great, and I'm all for it. I still consider it luck, but I can't argue with skill if it keeps building up.
That's right. You can't argue with his skill, but I think with Atlanta, if you want a top 10, you're going to need some luck too. Then I have Hamlin and Reddick 9th and 10th, same as you, right?
Now my 11th through 15th slots have not really changed. It's more just guys that have been pushed down. Like Bell would be 11th, Suarez 12th, 13th. I've got a jumper. Chase Briscoe finally did it. Finally pulled off a good race. Top 10, got 7th place. We knew this is one of his good tracks, but I'll give him some credit. He finally broke his rough streak. Hopefully he can keep that going because I'm all about Briscoe. I did not enjoy his slow start to the season, but maybe that's just what it was, a slow start. So Briscoe's 13th. That would mean my Martin Truex is 14th and Austin Dillon would be 15th.
All right. And in my 11 through 15, I have no changes with one exception, and that's that Daniel Suarez fell from the top 10, and he is now my 11th place driver. Everyone else has held their ground.
It's more the same, really. I've got Brad sitting there. I've got Cindric, Bubba Wallace. All these guys are kind of interchangeable just because it's hard to really differentiate through skill level. One guy who I'm pretty sure, according to points, is in the playoffs would be Corey LaJoie, surprisingly, because of these point docs. I'm pretty sure Corey LaJoie is 16th. Allmendiener's still there. I want to see him on a tried and true road course before I give him a really good ranking, but it's kind of just a mix-up for my 16th to 20th with those guys.
Really, the shakeups for both of our rankings were mostly in the top 10 this week. My 16 through 20, everything is the same as last week, except Cindric and Briscoe swapped places. Cindric was not really good at all. Interesting. Cindric was bad. Logano's car was bad, but Blaney was good enough to get that second place finish. So interesting with that team. Chase Briscoe did well enough. We'll see if he can build on that momentum. Some guys that have been on the outside of my rankings and haven't quite broke in yet. Ryan Preece had a good finish. Didn't really see a lot from him, but then I looked at the ending and he had a good finish. And I think Brad Keselowski, you've seen him running up in the front for a lot of these races, for a lot of the laps, but he's never in the front at the end. Something always happens with him. And I don't think it was necessarily a mistake or anything like that. I can't exactly tell you why, but he fell back at the end of the race.
Yeah, no, that's how it was. And I think they, in the broadcast, they were talking about how Keselowski had he barely had like laps in like the top 10 or whatever, and he had like 100 plus at this race. So he was there. I don't know what happened. He must have fallen behind him with something. And even Buescher finished 15th. So they're there. It's just they can't close it out.
Atlanta has been reconfigured. Of course, last year was the first year on the reconfigured track. We have seen that Atlanta is now a pack racing track. It is like a super speedway. It's only 1.5 miles around, but it races like a super speedway. High banked oval. A couple things that means is that you've got a draft and you've also got crashes and the ability to be taken out of this race through no fault of your own because you were in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, no, this is definitely going to be one. There's going to be some sort of action going on, and it's going to be a survival. Like, who can stick with the groups, who can keep the good speed, but also who can survive some bumping. Maybe they'll go 3 wide. You got to make it out of there. Who's going to have the most road smarts to survive this course?
Yes, and this track is hard on the tires. It's pretty unique. You know, you can compare it to the drafting that goes on at Daytona and Talladega. You can also compare it to some of the high tire wear tracks like the Homestead Miami, like the California. So be pretty interesting to see how things shape up. Speed will be very important. If you look at the 2 Atlanta races last season, the best results belong to Ross Chastain. He was second in both races. Interesting.
That is interesting.
Chase Elliott won one of these. He was top 10 in the other. And watch out, William Byron won this race in the spring of last year. Could we see 3 in a row?
It's possible for sure.
Yeah, it is possible. So one driver that I would really like for this race is not going to be in it. That's Chase Elliott.
When I think of Atlanta, it's Elliott's race. It's his home track, and it's a shame that he's not going to be able to race this one.
Yeah, another guy that I like, and I'm not going to pick him because I've already said I need to see just a little bit more from him. But Blaney has been good here, and I think he's got the ability to win this race also.
No, I really like the Blaney pick as well. I also feel like just Hendrick in general has to be mentioned, just with how dominant they've been.
Yeah,
getting like 1, 2, 3 in a row, and then all getting top 10. Even Josh Berry getting top 10. Impressive. They're all threats, but Atlanta, it can throw you curveballs. Maybe they'll wreck. Maybe they'll get busted up and won't be able to have top speed.
Will.
Anything good.
Yeah, there's no maybe. They will wreck. It's just a question of which ones.
I know you said you want to see more from him, but I think in a sea of Chevy, there's going to be 1 Ford that comes out on top, and that's going to be Ryan Blaney. In the end, I think he can do it. I've liked him heating up this season, and I just think this is the one. He's going to have the road smarts. He's going to have the speed. Hopefully, he'll qualify top 10. If not, this whole pick might be busted because I'm claiming he's going to have the speed, but I think Blaney can prevail and win this one.
So on my side of things, I think we're just kind of playing ping pong with this guy. 1 week you pick him to win, 1 week I pick him to win. I'd have to go back and see. We've probably picked him to win, one of us, about every week. I think Ross Chastain's going to get it done this week, and I think he'll get his first victory lane of the season.
I hope so. And yeah, that's definitely been a pick because he's always a factor. And while it hasn't shaped up like we want it to with top 10 finishes, top 5 finishes, he's always there, and it's always a chance because you know he's going to be good. You know he's going to have speed.
Yeah.
It's just, is he going to be able to close and seal the deal?
All right, for our consensus top 3 driver, which direction should we go? We've got the Ford of Blaney. We've got the Chevy of Chastain.
Would you want to go Hendrick? Would you want to go Toyota, throw a curveball?
I think we'd be fools not to have a Hendrick driver represented.
I agree. I assume it'd be either Byron or Larson, right?
Yes. Byron won this race last year in the spring. Byron has won 2 in a row. He could be vying for a 3rd in a row on the one hand. On the other hand, Larson has been dominant the last 2 races and has not been able to finish first in either one. So maybe he's the one that's going to finally be ready to put his name on the trophy.
Can Byron really win 3 in a row? That's got me a little skeptical. Is he on that hot streak that he can just keep it going? Or do we want to pick someone that's hungry for a win?
Yeah, based on that, I think we should go with Larson as our 3rd driver.
I like the Larson pick a little better. I know Byron will be good, but I think Larson will want it more. So I'd like Larson.
For my sleeper pick, I'm going to go first because I might be stealing from you, Nick. So we had mentioned that Chastain, who I'm picking to win, that he finished 2nd in both races at Atlanta last season. Interestingly enough, his teammate finished 4th and 6th in the 2 races. So my sleeper this week is Daniel Suarez. I think he'll be right there. If Chastain comes across first, very well Suarez could be 2nd.
It's a very strong pick, and I actually wasn't going to pick that. I did not know about the 4th and 6th. That's very interesting information. And yeah, if Chastain's up there, I don't see any reason why Suarez wouldn't be up there right behind him. So I like that pick. For me, I'm going to do a guy that he started out kind of quiet. Last race, he was able to pull out 3rd place, Tyler Reddick.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think Reddick's another driver. He's good. Just this season, it hasn't been working out well for him. You know he's got speed. I think he might be one at the end that is able to steal the win on this track.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I think a little bit later in this season, we might look back to those first few weeks and say, hey, remember when Reddick started off bad? Can you really believe that, how good he is now?
Yeah.
We might be headed that way with him. I think no matter what happens, it's going to be entertaining. I haven't checked the weather. Hopefully the weather will be good. And that would be about the only thing that could make this race not interesting to me, is if we're sitting waiting on rain delays or something like that.
What do you think are the odds this time of a brand new winner?
I would say that those odds are better than a repeat winner. I think it's more likely we'll have a new winner this week than one of these other guys repeating.
I agree. Byron's been great, but I'm just skeptical. Byron winning 3 in a row, I don't see something like that happening. And then with the other guys, Kyle Busch, he's good. I don't really consider him one for this one. So we'll just have to see, but I think it'll be a new winner also. So
everybody enjoy the race this weekend. Enjoy some basketball games, hopefully in between practice and qualifying, and reading about penalties and feuds that are going on. Have you enjoyed some basketball so far, Nick?
I have been enjoying basketball today, and I'll be enjoying it this weekend throughout the little breaks in between practice, qualifying, Xfinity, all that stuff.
Yes, and we'll hope that the Wolfpack will have made a good showing, and that we'll even have to balance Atlanta racing with NC State tournament game on Sunday.
I sure hope.
Okay, thanks for watching. We'll see you all next time.